Welcome to Andy and Ari On3, presented by Culver's. The transfer portal has been open for more than 24 hours, and there is heavy action. But of course, I don't know if we're ever going to have another topic on this show, Ari. We still got to talk about Nico because it doesn't seem like Nico to UCLA is done. It seems like it may be heading that way, but it doesn't seem done yet.
Yeah. Usually when you get a report that someone's going somewhere, then like 10 other people are like, yeah, that's true. And that's not that Bruce and Dave at The Athletic are wrong, but we at On3 just don't feel comfortable reporting it yet. So
and ESPN and 24/7. And so it's been a strange past 24 hours because normally these things work a little bit differently. Normally, the place starts to leak it out, and they tend to leak it out to everybody at once. And this has been a little more of a drip situation. And we're waiting for other things to kind of pop as well, because there are side effects to this if this winds up happening. But we also had the counteroffensive from Team Nico. They had the front office sports story saying, no, it wasn't money. It was the offense. And of course, that was also passed along by Colin Cowherd, who was the first to report the Nico to UCLA news. Colin Cowherd, not really known as a college football insider, but passed along. The family claims it's not about the money. It's about the Vol football offense, which, okay, sure. So you knew Josh Heupel wasn't leaving in December, so you knew the offense would be the same, yet you waited till April. And now you're going to put him with an offensive coordinator whose next play call will be his first. Tino Sunseri is UCLA's new OC. He comes from Indiana, where he was the quarterback's coach. But Indiana's offensive coordinator, the guy who called the plays, is Mike Shanahan. Not that Mike Shanahan, the younger one. No relation. But that is who's actually the play caller at Indiana. So Tino Sunseri may be a very good OC as he moves along his career. We don't know that yet because he's never called a play. So that's where they're at on that.
Wait, you're telling me that Tennessee didn't change their offense last week?
Amazing, right? Right. So Nico knew what the offense was when he signed, knew what the offense was when he was there for a year as not the starter, and knew what the offense was for a year as the starter, and then didn't leave in December when he knew the offense would be the same. But yeah, sure, it's about the offense.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of attempting to save face here when this is all said and done. So, I'm not surprised that the attempt spin move here is happening, but that cannot be the case because we all have this funny thing called common sense. And if that were the case, this would have come to a head a long time ago. There's no way that's true at all.
Right. If it was about the offense, he would have gotten there. And after the first year, when he didn't start, would have been like, oh no, this won't get me ready for the NFL. I'm out. That's how that works. You're actually seeing guys jump into the transfer portal now who were at schools that changed offenses. And they're like, this doesn't fit. I'm out.
I just saw a Joe Milton rookie card, very rare one, sell for like $9,000. Just so you know. There are two.
Zuka Joe, baby.
The last two quarterbacks at Tennessee are in the NFL, right? And there's
they are. I don't know that they're ever going to be NFL starters, but they're in the NFL.
I know, but I don't know that Hendon Hooker not being an NFL starter is a black mark on Josh Heupel's resume. I just think he was a really good college player.
No, I think that the knock is more that offense, which is the old Art Briles Baylor offense, no quarterback's ever really broken out of that and then had success in the NFL. But that was the same knock on the air raid till Patrick Mahomes. So
yeah, right. I think that it's more player driven than it is offense driven, if I'm being honest.
I think you're right about that. All right, let us bring on
Andy. One last thing about that. The offense, or for a long time, the Art Briles offense wasn't necessarily employed at the biggest, most talented programs either, right? It's catching on now, but there's also a correlation between where players come from and what offenses that they're playing in too. So I don't know.
And if RG3's knee holds up, we might be having a different conversation about that offense and quarterbacks having success in the NFL. All right, let us bring on our friend Pete Nakos. On3's resident insider, making a little more Skrilla these days, according to our boss Shannon Terry. We saw the photo. It was nice. What'd you celebrate with, Pete?
The transfer portal opening. I'll celebrate.
Oh, okay. So you just went right back to work.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Andy, have you ever wanted to be like, every time I've gotten a raise in my life, I don't know that like my employer was really happy to do it. Like, my goal in life is to shake somebody's hand while they hold over a piece of paper with money symbols on it as a photo opportunity. Like, that's what I want in life.
You need to win a golf tournament, Artie.
No, I'm taking golf lessons now, but like that was inspirational. They got to put that, like, you got to take that picture and frame it and put it somewhere in your office, Pete.
I have a desk, so I can make sure to print it out.
Yeah.
There's a photo that someone smuggled out of the Tennessee football offices last week when all this was going down. I don't know how I got it, but it has a photo of Nakos and it says, "Don't talk to Pete." I think that's the one he needs to frame. He can't talk about it. I love it. He can't say a word about this, but okay. We got to talk, Pete. So, Nico Iamaleava, talking to UCLA, you've said pretty much since all this broke out that UCLA was going to be in the mix for him. Yeah. Where would that be right now, do we think?
Yeah, so, I mean, you guys have made phone calls. Steve Wiltfong's made phone calls. We keep hearing that UCLA is the team to watch in this. It continues to look like that UCLA is the most viable option in all of this. But we haven't been able to confirm it's a done deal. I got a phone call this morning just before we jumped on that UCLA is starting to use Nico to Westwood as a recruiting tactic in the transfer portal. So that doesn't mean that it's done just yet, but there's definitely still some motion there. And, you know, it's a really interesting situation, too. I've talked to a lot of people in Joey Aguilar's camp, the App State quarterback who transferred to UCLA. He's kind of been kept in the dark in all this. And meanwhile, the spring game scheduled for Friday night.
So this is pretty unusual. Usually it goes the way it went with Jay Knott, right? Where you post a prediction and then like 12 hours later it happened. How unusual has it been in this case? And maybe it's right to expect that given how we got here to begin with. But has it been an unusual transfer to report?
Yeah, the whole thing has been, you know, unprecedented, from Tennessee and him having a public divorce to him in the portal, and now without it exactly being the smoothest commitment timeline. So that part has definitely been unique. I guess I'm not surprised by any of it, though, just because of how it all kind of went down at Tennessee, and now that's kind of leading to this, this like unknown commitment to UCLA. And I'm not saying that he isn't going to end up at UCLA, but it definitely is not a done deal. And that was really stressed to me last night by a few sources.
Well, and that's what's so interesting about this, Pete, because if it were to fall apart, I don't even know where he goes from there. You and I were talking last night and we're racking our brains trying to figure out what schools would even be in the mix at that point.
Yeah, so right, North Carolina, Tulane are out of the mix. UNLV is not going to go after Nico from what On3 Steve Wiltfong has heard, and also know like Liberty is not going to be in that mix either. Those are just some G5 schools that, you know, could take a quarterback possibly, but they're not going to take Nico. So yeah, I continue to rack my brain. I'm not quite sure what the other option is outside of UCLA. And you know, the one thing I keep hearing a lot about too, and I think that needs to be remembered when we talk about Nico right now, is he's going to be a junior next year. He can go to the NFL draft after next season. A lot of programs don't want to bring in a what someone told me a 6-month rental, just because not going to know the playbook that great because he missed spring ball, and it's going to be such a sped up timeline. They don't know if that's what they need for their program right now.
Yeah, and it's also an interesting dynamic to be in a position where you're going after a quarterback that believes that they're worth a lot of money, has not become a proven asset in the sense of, you know, for sure you're going to get ceiling level play, and then also at the same time already know he's going to bolt to the NFL even if, you know, things don't go the way that they're supposed to. Like, it's a very bizarre scenario because usually players who are commanding this much money are better.
And this has all become about money, right, in the last week, right? He's making like 2.2 to 2.5 at Tennessee, and as ESPN reported, he was looking for $4 million. Well, as we all know, all the money's in the NFL. So at the end of the day, he's going to get to the NFL as soon as he can.
Well, and that's the other piece of this too is the NFL. I've had people ask me. I had somebody ask a mailbag question about what would he sit out a year and just hire a trainer and then go to another school. I'm like, no. I think their plan is to go to the NFL after year 3 in college. So like getting this thing done with UCLA is probably pretty important along along those lines.
Doesn't he need good tape? I don't even know. I'm not an NFL draft analyst, but if he has the same year that he had last year, is he even a top 3 round pick? Like, he needs tape. He needs to play somewhere.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And he needs to play well. So UCLA is an interesting one because Tino Sunseri is the new offensive coordinator. He comes from Indiana. Obviously, they had a lot of success with Curtis Rourke last year as a transfer, as a 1-year rental. But it was a 1-year rental, not a 6-month rental. And Curtis Rourke had 4 years of starting in the MAC before that. Like we said earlier, Tino Sunseri did not call the plays at Indiana, but he's a bright young mind, viewed as a rising star in the coaching profession. So I don't have a doubt that he's going to be good at being an offensive coordinator. But it's interesting because we don't actually know what the UCLA offense is going to look like yet.
Yeah, and the other thing too is we've all heard it, but Tino Sunseri really likes Joey Aguilar. Like, he's really liked the body of work that Joey's done from what I've heard, and they were excited about what that's going to look like. So that's a dynamic that I'm personally interested to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, and also too, if Nico does end up at UCLA, because if you go read the athletic report, it says Nico is expected to go there. It doesn't mean that it's over, But if he does end up there, which I think is still the probably safest bet, Joey becomes a pretty coveted quarterback himself, doesn't he? He's a pretty good player last year.
Yeah, or he could stay and try to challenge Nico for the starting job,
which would be great. Can you imagine if Joey Aguilar stayed and beat out Nico? Because at that point, if you've signed Nico and you're paying him, you don't have to play him. You just play the best one, whoever that is. Oh man, Pete, we got to talk about some of these other guys in the portal because it was a pretty busy day.
Yeah,
for day 1 of the spring portal. Let's go to Chapel Bill. Start there.
Okay.
So Bo Atkinson, North Carolina's probably most productive returning defensive player.
Yep.
He's hit the portal. It looks like there's a pretty good market for him.
Yeah, he's going to have a really good market. As one source kind of put it to me last night, he's going to end up at like a top 10 program. Like, he wants to go play on the big stage. Georgia and Ohio State are in the mix. Not quite sure if that Ohio State visit is 100% set. They're definitely in it, though. And I think those 2 schools we wants to watch at this moment, but definitely going to land at a top 10 program or at the very least a top 25 preseason program.
Not the best start there, too. Like, you don't usually get players. The hope is that you're not getting players that are takes at Georgia and Ohio State potentially leaving your program right out of the gate either. That's kind of a tough loss.
Yeah. But on the flip side, I'll just add North Carolina is in a really good spot to land the South Alabama quarterback, Gio Lopez. And I know we've been reporting that now for 48 hours, but that's still all on track to end that way.
Right. And one of the quarterbacks who was taking snaps this spring hit the portal yesterday. So, yeah. I mean, that's sort of clearing the decks. Like, it looks like that's a done deal.
Yep. That was Ryan Brown, too, the former Purdue transfer.
Let's talk Tanner Koziol now. Tanner Koziol was one of the prizes in the transfer portal this past December. He was at Ball State, massive production at Ball State, tons of catches, tons of yards. Yeah. He goes to Wisconsin, where they're revamping the offense to look a little more like the Wisconsin offense of old. He's gone after spring. He's going somewhere else.
Yeah, it's a tough loss for Luke Fickell's program. I think from what I've heard, he wanted a bigger role in the passing game. I don't expect this to be the fastest recruitment we've ever seen in the transfer portal. I think that he's gonna definitely look at some options, and he's had an interesting career arc where he went in the portal a year ago, and left Ball State and committed to Louisville, but then decided to like renege on that and go back to Ball State. So that's one like interesting ruffle on all this. And then very interested to see where he lands. It will be one of the top tight ends in this spring portal. But gotta think that this is not going to be the fastest decision we've seen.
When I
and then go ahead, Art.
When I did the way too early preseason All-American team, I put Koziol as my tight end.
Yeah.
And I got multiple messages from personnel people in college football, like calling me an idiot. So I'm very interested to see. And then there was that like video that was going around about, Luke Fickell saying some people just aren't meant to be here. I'm sure you've seen the video. It's the one that Wisconsin fans have been sharing since he left, implying that that's who he was speaking about. I'm very interested to see because the production was off the charts, but I wonder if there's some question underneath the surface there about, his toughness and also, commitment to wherever he goes. So I'm always fascinated about that because, you see production and stats and, you get excited about those things from our perspective. But then there's this underbelly of information sharing in college football where people, get, a reputation around them. And I'm very curious to see where he ends up, if it's somewhere Wisconsin or better, or if he's downgraded here.
Pete, one of the ones or the interesting facets of this portal is you get the guys that are going from like the FCS level to the FBS. So Sharmar Brown, I want to ask you about. North Dakota State running back, was the Jerry Rice Award winner last year, which would be the best freshman in the FCS. What do we think happens with him?
Yeah, he's going to have a really great market. And the fact that he has 3 years of eligibility remaining is going to make him one of the more, top names in the spring portal. I don't have an early schools to watch right now just because he went kind of like announced the plans to enter later in the day. I just know that he's going to be a top priority for a lot of running back needy teams, and that's probably going to start with Georgia.
Yeah, I love his name too, Andy. Is that a good name?
It's a great name. Fluff Bothwell, who went from South Alabama to Mississippi State, I still think is the best named running back in this transfer portal cycle, but it's up there.
Yeah. Charmar Brown sounds like it could be a Pokemon character, but maybe that's just because it starts with Char and Charizard's a pretty iconic one. I don't know. But this kid runs hard.
You just made the T-shirt wherever he winds up, Ari.
Yeah. You don't tell me that if you put his likeness on a T-shirt that was just the Charizard card, and then you put him running it instead of that monster doing this thing. And by the way, that's the extent of my Pokemon knowledge. I don't want any allegations.
I was shocked you knew what a Charizard was. So
you want to know why? Because these cards are very expensive. So I know that. It's a very
sought after market.
Yeah. But that's all I know. But like,
have you been ripping Pokemon cards? It's okay.
So we all had that thing because, like, I don't know, Andy, you were probably too old. Were you too old for the Pokemon phase, or were you in it when you were?
Yeah, no, I was in college when it started, so I was out of that.
My brother and I, we never got into it where we were playing it, but like kids were collecting them when we were children. So like we had like a binder like this thick full of cards, and like the whole thing was like, wait a minute, these things are worth a lot of money. So everybody has that moment where they go back in time and they look through their binder to see, like, do we have the Charizard card? And of course, like for 3 minutes, I was excited. Maybe we had something we didn't know we had. And of course, everything we had was worthless. But I would buy the shirt that was him on the Charizard card that just said Charmar on it. That'd be sick, dude.
Charmar! Oh, wait, that's more like Charmander or Charmeleon.
See, and this is the thing I don't understand.
Charmar would be like, Charizard would be like, Rah!
The thing I don't understand about Andy is he was too young.
My son watched Pokemon, the show,
you always
over and over when he was 5. So
he has the knowledge somehow. He always knows. Like there's so many topics where just like, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. Andy has a general understanding of everything.
Because Andy's Andy.
Yeah,
you'll see what you get exposed to as your daughter gets older. That I promise. All right, Pete, we got some questions in the chat that
sure
I think you can handle here. So what about Tennessee in terms of grabbing a quarterback out of the portal? Because I think we've seen some announcements or at least some reporting, and you've done some reporting that probably crossed some names off the list.
Yeah, so reported yesterday that the TCU quarterback Josh Hoover is going to stay with the Horned Frogs, and he was a name that tossed around a lot behind the scenes about a potential Tennessee target. So that's one name kind of off the board. There's a couple other names that have been floating around that I can't 100% rule out yet, but feel good that like a Haynes King and an Avery Johnson are going to return to their schools and not hop in the portal. But that's not 110% just yet. So super interested to see what Tennessee ends up doing. I don't think we're at the point yet where we have to have a conversation of like, is Tennessee not going to get a quarterback? But it's definitely an interesting situation to watch.
Have you gotten a sense, though, of how Tennessee feels about who's on the roster?
They feel good. They feel good. I think they liked what George McIntyre did in the spring game. Obviously, Jake Merkinger has a year of experience now. Obviously, he backed up Nico. He didn't like start 13 games, but they feel good. They definitely need to bring someone in, though. Like that bottom line is they got to bring someone in. I don't know how or what that looks like, but they need to bring someone in.
Right, because it could be a depth issue. You got to, if you were, let's say, lose two quarterbacks, and it's not unheard of that a school loses two quarterbacks to injury during a season. Like, I'll give you an example. The 2013 Florida season, the one where Will Muschamp went 4-8, it fell apart because of quarterback injuries and not having that level of depth that you need. So that's the concern. I'm with you, Pete. They got to bring in somebody. They don't have to bring in somebody to start, but they probably need to bring in somebody who they feel comfortable putting in a game at some point.
We did 2 days ago, but I continue to hear just how difficult it's going to be to, obviously Nico leaving Tennessee was such a public divorce. Think about what it would look like if a proven starter left the program at this point in the year too.
Yeah. Pete, I got a couple more names to ask you about, but first I want to tell everybody about Rhoback because you're wearing a lovely Rhoback polo today. I am wearing the Rhoback performance hoodie.
Not Ari.
Most comfortable clothing on earth. The performance hoodie is the most versatile garment I've ever owned. Like I said, if you're going to buy one, buy at least two because somebody in your house is going to steal one. But hoodies, polos, quarter zips, shorts, joggers. The new joggers are awesome, by the way. You can never tell if I'm wearing pants on this show, but occasionally it's the Rhoback joggers, and they are buttery soft. They're amazing. So if you want to order at Rhoback.com, that's RHOBACK.com. Use the code Andy for 20% off your first order. That's Rhoback.com, code Andy for 20% off your first order. All right, Pete, let's talk former 5-stars in the portal. Former 5-star receiver Micah Hudson. He went to Texas Tech. He left Texas Tech. He went to Texas A&M this offseason. He is now back in the portal. The assumption when he went back in the portal is he's going back to Texas Tech. Is that the case?
That is not the case. No. It's definitely an option on the table, but returning to Texas Tech is not a done deal or a lock or anything close to that.
Yeah, it kind of felt like at the beginning that it was going to be that, though, right? Did something change?
It definitely, when we reported that he'd stepped away from the program, it definitely felt like a return to Texas Tech was the play. I just don't think it's gonna line up perfectly, and I'm not rolling out a return, but it's definitely not as close to done as I thought it was like 5 months ago.
I've just found myself being in the position where I want Texas Tech to get everybody because I want to see how good they can be.
I wasn't sure. Now you can tell me, Pete. I don't know. Was Texas Tech all that keen on bringing him back? Because he was there for a year, and they seem to be like, okay, you can go if you want.
No, and I think they're going to be more than happy to bring him back if he takes a pay cut and things like that. I just don't think that. I think they're trying to make it clear to him that he's not going to be able to come back and things are not going to just be the way they were last time.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing how this market is going, and I think that brings us to the Fran Brown discussion and Trevor Pena. Okay, so everybody's seen the clip or everybody's seen the quote from Fran Brown, and we're going to play it for you. The quote from Fran Brown is, if you're going to make $2 million a wide receiver, that's the homie at Ohio State. Okay, we're going to play you that quote in a second. But I would like to add some context to this, because if you watch the context in that interview, which is the show is called Q Sports Talk. And so it's a whole interview with Fran Brown. It's like 22 minutes long. And they talk about Trevor Pena quite a bit. Trevor Pena is their leading returning receiver. He's entering the portal. I don't know about you, Pete, but I got the sense from hearing what Fran Brown said that he wasn't asking for $2 million, that this was more of a offense post-com accord issue.
Yeah, I didn't get the sense from that quote that Trevor Pena exactly asked for $2 million. I think he was just more so, saying that things are changing and he's not going to pay $2 million. But I didn't think that quote specifically was that Pena was asking for $2 million.
Yeah, I mean,
but it was still hilarious. And we're going to play it anyway because Fran Brown is the best. He is a quote machine. Here is Fran Brown talking about people not understanding their value.
Coach, you mentioned it earlier, but, I think a part of the fan base is worried about you are comfortable where Syracuse is with NIL and that didn't play into it?
No. We was going to come out. It didn't play into it at all, but like sometimes people be asking for an outrageous number, like, right? You're not about to make more than every coordinator and all. Like, man, stop. I ain't. With all due respect to everybody in the country, to every wide receiver, to everybody that's doing all this stuff, like, if you want to make $2 million at wide receiver, that's to blow a homie over at Ohio State. Ain't nobody else making that money. Giving no wide receiver no $2 million, man, in college. Nah, that ain't me. I ain't doing that. I can't do it. Unless they tell me that we get a chance to have Travis Hunter, he could come back to college and he could come here and play for us, then he gonna get some of my check. But I ain't paying nobody $2,000 this year. Not to me. $2 million, whatever. I just say, yeah, we ain't giving nobody that.
I love that he's like, I'm not paying anybody $2 million. Well, unless it's Travis Hunter. Yes, I definitely pay him $2 million.
But so I talked to Fran Brown on the phone like 3 weeks ago, and I was like, do you want to comment more on the Colorado spring game situation? He's like, nah, man, that's on me. I'm not in that position yet. I'm like, all right, cool.
Fran Brown, we need to have on the show. I did an interview with him when he took the job at Syracuse, and the phone call got a little contentious in like a positive way. Like we weren't fighting, but like I was pushing back on like, he was like, yeah, well, Syracuse is going to go after Georgia players. I'm like, all right, dude, like, are you really going to go after players that are being recruited by Georgia? And he like was offended by the notion that Syracuse couldn't do it. And then at the end of the call, he goes, I appreciate you having, the onions to look me in the eye and say that, but we're going to prove you wrong. And like, I really do love that guy. Like, I feel like
it's awesome. They had a great first year. Now the ACC screwed them with the schedule this year. They had to play the four toughest teams in the league on the road, and they also played Notre Dame. But and they started Tennessee because everything always comes back to Tennessee. But what is the market for Trevor Pena, by the way, who is a 900-yard last year slot receiver?
Yeah, he's got a really strong market. He heard from about like 25 to 30 schools in the last 48 hours since he made the decision to go in the portal. The one big school to watch, though, at this point is Miami.
There you go. Miami, which they had Nye Carr hit the portal yesterday, who was a big-time recruit who's now looking elsewhere. So a lot of names shuffling around. Pete, we're going to let you get back to work because I know you have lots of agents calling you, lots of folks to talk to. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. See you guys.
That's Pete Nakos. Before we talk more about Fran Brown, because I love Fran Brown. I love Fran Brown so much. But before we talk more about that, I want to tell you about Culver's, because Culver's is bringing us next week to Green Bay for the draft. That's right. We're going to be at the Culver's Great Wisconsin Tailgate outside the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. We'll be doing shows there on Thursday and Friday of next week. Great guests coming. Born in Wisconsin, Culver's is the home of the legendary ButterBurger, fresh frozen custard, and Wisconsin cheese curds, and they are bringing it to the world. They are bringing the taste of America's Dairyland to the world, or at least to your neck of the woods, your neighborhood. I know there's one right down the street from me. I might get a frozen custard later today. I'm not going to lie, Ari, because those things are fire. Well, they're frozen, but they're fire. So hit up Culver's and then watch us in the land of Culver's next week.
I've been doing this thing, Andy, where I've been eating dinner earlier in the evening, like around 5:36.
Welcome to the club.
Yep. I'm doing it on purpose, though, not because that's the right time for dinner is more 7, 8 o'clock. But I've been doing it earlier to allow my body to digest whatever I eat for dinner, go to bed, with an empty stomach, and then wake up. I've been feeling better in the morning. But I get really, really, really hungry, like around the time we're doing this show. And every time you read this ad, like I just think about the expansive menu of that place, and it's just like I also am not above eating a juicy burger at 8:30 in the morning. Like I'm not one of those people that has time slots.
Yeah, I don't have
will
set
eat
rules
anything.
on that sort of thing.
And like every time you read that ad, I am just like, take me to Green Bay. I am starving. And I know that they're gonna back up the truck too. Like I know that there's gonna be options.
They're basically building a restaurant around our set. It's going to be amazing.
Oh, man, I can't wait.
I'm so excited. All right, Davis in the chat talking about Fran Brown. Why send your kid to a school that will publicly denigrate your kid for trying to negotiate in private? That's not good business. Fran Brown was not talking about Trevor Pena when he said $2 million. I don't know how to make that more clear.
Yeah. The way that the quote has been presented makes it seem like he was, though. So, like he said NIL didn't come into play and then went on the diatribe. I don't know what the actual reason but like the way that they were talking about it. I see why people are making that.
Yeah, earlier in the interview, he talks about, hey, it wasn't necessarily a money thing with Trevor. He's looking for something. It would have been 6th year, by the way. And he said, Fran Brown said, hey, we would have been lucky to have him another year. But also, he's trying to get himself set up for the NFL. Obviously, things are different there this year because Kyle McCord isn't there anymore. So you're breaking in a new quarterback, and it's a different situation. So that may be more to it than the money piece of it. But Fran Brown also said, apparently the other Syracuse players knew what Trevor Pena was scheduled to make because they're like, hey, we heard you had some money freed up. How about you spread that wealth around?
I just was thinking about Nico going to Syracuse, Trevor coming back, and them just rocking it. But
well, I think you know right now that there is no chance that Nico would go to Syracuse because can you imagine Team Nico in a negotiation with Fran Brown? We would like $4 million. No. We would like $3 million. No. We would like $2 million. No.
Yeah, and then he would just start comparing you to people who are reportedly making that much money. Like it's like I want $4 million. Well, now, that was the homie Caleb Williams. You know,
exactly.
I like how he called Jeremiah Smith the homie at Ohio State. That made me laugh.
Yeah, because Jeremiah Smith probably making more than $2 million and worth every penny.
I do want to ask you though, Andy. You would agree, or at least it's my opinion, that the value of a number one, going to get open every play, game-changing receiver has become more important or more valuable in the recent years. I don't know if you agree with that.
Agreed.
But I think the teams that have those players, a receiver can win you a football game.
Yes.
I know Jeremiah Smith is an alien. I don't want to use him as a baseline. But do you think that a receiver, in theory, could be worth $1 million or $1.5 million?
Sure. Yes.
And how many of those?
All the Alabama fans got mad at me the other day when we were talking about what was going on at Florida and what they hope for Dallas Wilson, their freshman receiver. Because I said, I don't want to compare anybody to Jeremiah Smith because that's not fair because he's an alien. And I said, but the Florida people would be thrilled if Dallas Wilson winds up being like Ryan Williams last year. And the Alabama fans seem to think that was an insult to Ryan Williams. Like Ryan Williams was awesome.
Yeah.
They're hoping Dallas Wilson, who is a similar level recruit, is as good as a freshman as Ryan Williams was. Whether he is or not is another question. But that's the whole point. Like, those guys are rare. They're special. And if you can get one of those, it's worth a lot.
Yeah. When you made that comment, I knew you were going to get cooked. I was like,
but it's the stupidest argument. What are you mad about? That I called him the second best freshman receiver in the country behind a freaking alien?
I think that the way that it came out of your mouth, I knew what you meant, but I knew people would be like, well, he's not anything near Jeremiah Smith. But like, I think it was the notion that like,
because nobody is.
I know, but I think it was more the notion of like, yeah, Florida would be happy if he turned into Ryan Williams. It's like, yeah, no crap.
And they would.
Yeah, they would be thrilled. They would be over the moon.
Florida, are you saying Florida would not be happy if he had 900 receiving yards and averaged 20 yards a catch? Because I think they would.
The problem is that if he reaches Ryan Williams' level of play next year, that would be absolutely extraordinary. And the way that it came out of your mouth was like, that's like, yeah, that would be great if that happened. It's like, yeah, that would be amazing. It's probably not going to happen though, because not that many people do that. Like, I think that like the expectation that he could do that is wrong, right? Maybe he could, I don't know, but I understand. And I understand what you were saying, and I knew that you're not saying it in a nefarious Ryan Williams. You don't have to. I'm with you.
I'm just saying stupid people got mad because they wanted to get mad about something.
I just had a feeling that the way you said that you were going to get some flack for it. But it's okay. If Dallas Wilson is Ryan Williams or Ryan Williams level production, that is a grand slam 600-foot home run. Like,
right.
But
and Dallas Wilson would be worth a lot of money, just like Ryan Williams is worth a lot of money.
But I would pay Ryan Williams more than $1 million. I would pay Jeremiah
absolutely
$2.5 million.
100%.
But I think that those players are rare. And just because you're productive, like Trevor Pena was productive and will be productive wherever he ends up next year.
I believe he had more receiving yards than Ryan Williams. But if you're taking Ryan Williams,
production doesn't always equate to game-changing ability either. Like I think that Ryan Williams, even if he didn't, because Ryan Williams' stats weren't as good as Jeremiah's either, but like Ryan Williams, I thought was like the B-share version of like explosiveness, touchdown potential on any.
He averaged over 20 yards a catch.
He's so good.
It's crazy.
And Andy thinks he's so good too. I think you just misinterpreted what he was saying.
Yeah. All right. We have breaking news to talk about. This is not the breaking news I thought we were going to talk about, because we do have to talk about the other breaking news later in the show where they have passed through the rule that is supposed to curb faking injuries. We'll talk about that in a bit. But this is big breaking news from ESPN. Lee Corso will retire from College Game Day in August. So week 1 of the season will be Lee Corso's last show. 38 years covering college football for ESPN. Legendary, helped make College Game Day what it was. It's crazy to think that there's going to be a college football Saturday, and it's going to be week 2 where Lee Corso does not put the headgear on.
Yeah, the thing about this is, and I actually made this point to you over text a few nights ago, but like I am very much confused always about how much people care about the announcers of things. Because like it's just never been something that like really moved the needle for me in my personal opinion. But like when you talk about Lee Corso, you're talking about an iconic figurehead that like is college football. Like when you think of college football, if you did a montage of what is college football, Lee Corso would be in that video. And I think that because College Game Day has been a fixture in many of our lifetimes fanhood, like most people watch College Game Day in the morning. Now I know that like people get upset about certain things, or they hate Disney or whatever. There's reasons to stop watching. I think Big Noon.
Well, even if you didn't watch the rest of the show, you always tune back in at the end to see what headgear he put on and how he did it.
Lee Corso was a part of that pre-game feeling that you get, those butterflies at 10:30 a.m. before the game started. Like I can't wait for this to go. The Big Noon game, or when I say Big Noon game, I don't mean the Big Noon game that's on the TV. I just mean like the exciting new game that's at noon. And the buildup to the emotions of that Saturday, Lee Corso was a main fixture in that. And like I feel like in life, when you're young or when you're getting acquainted with something, that it always feels like something's going to be the same. And Lee Corso did it for so long that it always felt like it was going to be the same. And it's just a harsh reality that nothing lasts forever. And even though I'm not a person who connects personally with sportscasters, Lee Corso, this like saddens me because it is a loss for the game. And I know that he lost his fastball the last few years, and that's what happens.
It's been tough after the stroke. It was tough. So it was probably time, and it's been hard watching this happen over the last few years. But like you said, it's such a part. Because he started putting the headgear on, I think, my freshman year of college. So that's way more than half of my life he's been doing this. Like my interactions with college football every Saturday is, what headgear did Lee Corso put on? Like that's how my game day starts every Saturday.
Who did he choose? Who, and the theatrics of throwing it and then picking up the other one, like all those things. Like River just put in the chat, and it's true for me too. It's like this guy was a fixture of my childhood. He was a fixture of the reason why I fell in love with the sport. College Game Day is the show that I have on in every room on Saturday mornings when I'm home watching games to get me ready. And it doesn't mean that I'm sitting there watching the whole thing for 3 hours like this, but it's the noise of college football. It is the official, it's what you want to hear. You want to hear the fans cheering. You know, College Game Day has a very distinct noise for background noise, right? And Lee Corso's voice was that to me. So I know that people probably were really upset when Keith Jackson stopped calling games, and there are certain people that have become synonymous with the sport, and I think that Lee Corso unequivocally is one of those figureheads.
Well, so the last one, week 1, I'm assuming they're going to be at the Texas-Ohio State game. So Brutus or Hookem, which head do you think he's going to put on?
Wasn't Brutus the first one he did ever?
That's a good question.
I don't remember. I thought it was, but first.
I'm looking it up. You vamp.
Yeah, but wherever
it was Brutus. It was.
Yeah, and it was like the old Brutus that looks like the eyes were googly. It would be kind of a cool full circle moment if he chooses that again. But like that's an event like that people should cover. You know what I mean? Like that's like his last go of it. That is something special. And, you know, I'm always grateful and thankful for people who you know, epitomize something. And the thing that you have to say that I didn't say about Lee that I want to make sure I say is college football is a quirky game. College football is different. It's sports. It's big business. We talk a lot about NIL now, but it is a quirky game that has quirks and features that other games don't have. And Lee Corso's personality as a human being gelled very well with the amateur nature of the game, in the sense that like the way that he acted just fit. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but that's how I feel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No,
like,
he understood the game was fun. And it's interesting because he had coached the game at a really high level. Like he'd been Indiana's head coach, for goodness sakes. Like he had seen it from every portion of it. He'd been a player at Florida State, and he brought that level of whimsy to it that makes it different from the NFL, that makes it special. Like he understood it inherently. And so I just was watching the original headgear pick. So it was October 5th, 1996. He was choosing Ohio State to beat Penn State. He put the Brutus head on. So this was like Orlando Pace playing for Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
That was my freshman year of college. And I just like every time I was like, how's he going to do it? Because he put on, like with Oklahoma, he had the hat with the Boomer Sooner wagon on top of it, like or the Sooner Schooner. I always, every time he got a firearm to help out, it was an adventure. So I can't wait to see which one, whether it's Brutus or Hookem. That last one, I will cherish it and savor it. You know, I think we've had the discussion, because that was always one of our bar discussions, Ari, over the last probably 5-6 years, of who replaces Lee Corso on College Game Day. I think we already know the answer to that now. It's Nick Saban. Like they don't have to bring somebody else in to play that role. They have Pat McAfee doing the wild stuff, and he, you know, like he jumped in the river at Baylor and all that. So like that'll be Pat. Nick Saban's the ex-coach now, just with a little different vibe than Corso.
I don't think that you even try to replace that person, though. There are certain people that you don't replace, in the sense of like, I don't ever want to see anybody else put the headgear on again. Like that's not who they are. Like he was such an eccentric man, and all that stuff, you know, is what made him special. Like nobody's going to be able to recreate that. So like, and if they attempt to, I think it's bad form. So I don't think they will. And also Nick Saban's awesome on the show. Like,
I know.
So
it's different. Like when is Nick Saban gonna cuss? Is the new what headgear is Lee Corso gonna put on? Because you know Nick Saban's gonna cuss at some point, and somebody's gonna email the FCC complaining, even though it's cable and you can't complain about that. But I just think it's great.
I love the Indiana Jones hats he wears. Pat McAfee, I think, has been a pretty good addition to the show in terms of like livening it up a little bit because you don't want it to be stuffy. College Game Day can't be stuffy. Just because you can't replace Lee Corso doesn't mean that you can't have a personality on the show that livens it up a little bit, because it's not like that's the difference. The vibe of Big Noon Kickoff, and I don't know, some people prefer that show because it's more technical and they do the the Urban Meyer draws up plays and all that stuff. But like to me, like the reason why College Game Day hit good for me is because College Game Day didn't like take itself too seriously. College Game Day was as drunk as all of us were waiting for the games to start. And that to me is the charm of the show. And, just because you can't replace a person doesn't mean you can't keep the vibe the same. And I think Pat McAfee does a pretty good job of filling in that role.
Well, I think they changed the vibe with McAfee because it had gotten a little bit stale. The formula had gotten a little bit stale. And I realize McAfee's a very controversial figure, and some people hate him and some people love him. I like him a lot. I love his show. Like I am the target audience for his show. So I think he brought a bolt of energy that the show needed.
You just can't have 4 coaches or 4 people in suits talking about everything matter-of-factly. You need what do you call me on the show? Like I'm like the off kilter guy. Like what do they call those people?
The wild card.
Yeah. Maybe I'm the wild card. I don't know. But yeah, college football's quirky. The show was quirky. Lee Corso epitomizes quirky, and I'm going to miss him a lot.
Yeah, I am too. And I will, we may be there. If we're at Texas, Ohio State week 1, we need to go over to the set and watch.
Sure, absolutely.
We need to watch him don the headgear for the last time.
Absolutely. There's no question. I wonder if he'll talk too. It'd be interesting to talk to him just to, see the emotion of that. Cause he's probably going to show some emotion with that. When you do something for 40 years, man, like that's who you are,
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I don't even know like what you do after that. And also too, what a wonderful way to live a life, because is there any better job? I mean, like, listen, when I was a kid, like there are people were like, what would you want to do? Like being on College Game Day was the epitome of greatness in terms of covering college football.
I interviewed for something in Bristol about 10 years ago. And that's what I said to the people who were interviewing me is I want to be on that show. Now, clearly they didn't give me the job, but that's everybody wanted to be on College Game Day. It
still want to be
like
on
so much fun. And obviously we have friends who work on the show. It is that much fun.
Yeah. But then when you also realize that they've got, Nick Saban on the show now, it's like, it's kind of hard to compete to get on it. But like,
I don't think that's the role I would have been trying to get.
I mean, the people on the stage are all very famous now. Like, there's no like, here's some guy that covered college football for 10 years. You got to be an icon before you get on there now. But maybe this show will become iconic, and then 10 or 15 years.
Exactly. Like, who's going to replace Andy and Ari? Like in 40 years, when you're like, all right, my last show is going to be August 30th. And we're trying to figure out who's going to replace you, and people are crying on other shows.
That is the day my contract kicks in. So thank you.
Oh, did you get one of those new NACO deals?
No, but that's that's the day it's up.
Oh, okay. All right. So August 30th, 2047.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I haven't gotten an extension yet, but we're working on it.
Yeah. And so JM in the chat brings this up, and this is, did you guys hear Fox tried to poach Reese Davis? He's not leaving ESPN. That's true. Andrew Marchand reported that last week at The Athletic. Reese Davis, very big part of that, because he seamlessly replaced Chris Fowler when Fowler, moved to more play-by-play type stuff. So they've done a good job as the show has evolved, because this is an old show. The first time they took it on the road, I want to say, is 1993 for Notre Dame and Florida State in South Bend. So I'm bad at math, Ari, but that's 32 years ago. Like they've done a good job. Like, you think about the people on the staff of that show. Some people, the people who were running it when it started are now retired, and they're moving. They've moved through multiple generations of it. So the fact that we're still tuning in and it's still a critical part of our Saturday, is a testament to what they've been able to do. But a lot of that was Herbie, the chemistry between Herbie and Lee Corso. So we'll see what the new generation does. But I am very much enjoying Nick Saban on College Game Day.
College Game Day too is like if they come to your campus, that's like a feather in your cap. People keep track of how many times has Game Day come or where have they been. Like the show has become synonymous with like a, hat tip to the place they're going because they
it's a 3-hour advertisement for your university. Like you can't buy that level of publicity.
Although I do think it would be cool, and I think it's probably too late now to change the script from going to the most impactful game of the week to going to unique places. But it would be cool, like if College Game Day was like, we're going to be at Montana State today. Like
they do that. They've been to I don't know if they've been to the Brawl a while, but they've been to North Dakota State a few times. They've been to a couple different. They went to one of the D3 games.
Yeah,
at one point. So they're not. But the Brawl in a while will be a good one. I'm all for that. So we'll see. But congratulations on an incredible career, Lee Corso, for all of us who've watched over the years, and we can't wait to see you put the head on one more time. Ari, other piece of breaking news: the prop committee, which is the committee that rubber stamps the things that the football oversight committee does, the playing rules something panel. They have rubber stamped the rule change that they hope will curb the faking of injuries to slow down opposing offenses. So here's the way the new rule works. If medical personnel have to come out on the field to tend to a player after the ball is spotted, the team that player plays for will be charged a timeout. If that team has no timeouts, the team will be assessed a 5-yard penalty. Do you think this will work?
I think that it will help. I don't know if it will end it. What do you think?
I don't think it'll end it. I do think that the coaches that teach it are just going to say you got to do it faster and keep an eye on the umpire and the field judge, not the field judge, the center judge, to see have they spotted the ball yet, and don't do it if they've spotted the ball. But I think the fact of the matter is, like, when those offenses that go fast are going fast, like the ball carriers, the receivers and the running backs and the quarterbacks are trained to find the person spotting the ball. They're trained to flip the ball right to them. So the ball is going to get spotted fast. And once that ball's down, you can't do it. So, and remember, a lot of the fake injuries were signals coming in from the sideline. So if you've got to get that signal in from the sideline before the ball gets spotted, I do think it's going to be harder for them to.
I think the timeout thing is good. I wonder if you have no timeouts, if you could do a time penalty, not a yardage penalty, because a lot of times when this is happening,
a runoff,
aren't you trying to, stall the clock or to put yourself in a position to get the ball back? Or are you?
You might be, but what if you're in the lead? Then that's an unfair advantage. A runoff penalty doesn't help the other team. So you need to be able to help the other team and penalize the team that's doing the wrong thing. So I think this is the best compromise they could have come up with. I think that's the thing. There's no easy way to do this, because the problem is you can't accuse someone of faking an injury in the moment, because what if they're really hurt?
Yeah.
And then a lot of people have said, okay, you can't come in the rest of the drive. Well, who's going to enforce that? Like, are you going to make a penalty box? Like, the only way you could actually do that is to either say they have to stay in the injury tent, or you make like a lacrosse style penalty box. I don't know if you've ever seen a lacrosse game, but they have a penalty box right in front of their version of the scorer's table. And if somebody is penalized, they do, like it's like hockey where you're out for 2 minutes and you can come back in and the team plays shorthanded, and they have to sit right there. They just, take a knee right there so everybody can see them, and then they're not playing.
The injury leading to you not playing for the rest of the drive in theory sounds good, but what if somebody really important to you just tweaks their ankle for a second? Like, and it would be unfortunate if somebody actually got injured because you need.
Well, and that's the other piece of it. That's what the coaches on the oversight committee were worried about, because if that was the penalty, or if you had to come out for the rest of the drive, you'd have people who were actually hurt not seeking medical attention because they'd want to stay in for the rest of the drive.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I hate it. I think that it's a step in the right direction, and I can't wait to see how it helps curb it.
I can't wait, because I was watching when the oversight committee approved this thing. I went back and watched some of the more egregious clips of fake injuries. Like there's a great one from a Sun Belt game a few years ago, and I'm not going to say which teams because I'll get them mixed up, and I don't want to blame the wrong team. But coach signals in from the sidelines to fake the injury. Two players see it. Both players go down immediately like they've been sniper shot. And one of them realizes, oh, wait, the other guy went down. So he pops up immediately. And so the player from the other team starts pointing at him and going, he was faking, and then pointing at the other guy, he's faking too. And the one who popped up tries to fight the player from the other team. Like it's so stupid. It's so stupid.
The people who fake injuries do such a bad job of like trying to dramatize it too. It's just like,
of course,
when you actually get hurt, it's subtle and people don't notice until they see you on the ground. You don't have to like fall to the floor like dramatically, like you're storming Normandy Beach. Like, just fall to the ground.
Yeah. Well, I will be curious to see how effective this is. From hearing from the people on the oversight committee when they approved this rule initially a couple months ago. Here's the deal. If someone is obviously hurt and the training staff runs out, or the official notices that someone is obviously hurt and calls out the training staff, that does not cost your team. So if you have a player who's trying to make a go of it, but clearly is struggling, the officials will stop play, and they'll not charge you a timeout for that.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Situation, and I think it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah. And I guarantee you somebody's going to complain, but this is college football. So everybody's looking for an edge. I guarantee the reaction to this around some of the football buildings in the country is not, all right, we're going to stop faking injuries. It's, we got to figure out how to signal this in faster so we can do it before the ball gets spotted.
Just do it more cleanly.
Be better actors is what we're trying to say.
Because it even like that in soccer too. Like soccer fake injuries are so ridiculous looking.
Oh my God. Don't ask me why we were watching a soccer game. It was a Chelsea, I believe it was Chelsea and Tottenham Hotspur the other day. Or not Chelsea, Liverpool. And this guy goes down like he has dislocated his ankle, like someone has sawed off his foot. He is rolling around, writhing on the ground. And you look at the replay and you're like, I don't even think his ankle was affected by that play.
Yeah.
And then not 30 seconds later, when the situation's all been resolved and I don't think there was a card handed out on the play, but they figured out possession and who got the ball. He pops right back up and he's ready to run.
LeBron does it too.
I mean, Paul Pierce had to be taken out of a wheelchair.
I mean,
LeBron says he pooped himself.
If his face gets grazed by someone's hand, he goes like he does this thing, and then goes down to the it's gotten to the point now. LeBron's done that his whole career. Now, LeBron gets karate chopped when he drives a lot of times. So yeah, I'm not saying he doesn't take a beating. I'm saying he flops.
Oh, he definitely does. There's no question about it. And as he's gotten older, he's gotten better at it.
But it's always the best because, like, as a player, you have to know that the replays and the cameras, the angles are so good that, like, sometimes if like an elbow grazes your chin or comes near your face, and then you do this thing that, like, everybody can see that you weren't even touched. Like
Right.
everyone
Or
can see it.
if you're an NBA defender and you know you're about to run into a screen, the ones who act like they have run into a brick wall as opposed to like a little skinny
Yeah.
6'10", 190-pound dude. So
Yeah. It's always, it's like, come on, man. Like,
I do have one more request of the coaching staffs who encourage their players to fake injuries. Just one more. Stop having your best player do it. It's stupid. Because he has to come out for a play. I realize why you're doing it, because he's the only one you trust to pull it off. He might be the smartest player on your defense. But don't do that. You're better off having your best player in the game. So just stop.
yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that one too.
Ari, we have a very exciting show tomorrow. Dear Andy, dear Ari, you know how to find us. At Andy_Staples, at Ari Wasserman on social media. Andy Staples on 3 at gmail.com. Ari.Wasserman at on3.com. We got your questions answered tomorrow. We also, somebody has slipped us a copy of Producer Rivers' senior year huddle highlights. And boy, howdy, if you've never watched a 125-pound slot receiver do work in East Tennessee high school football, we're going to break it down like Brian Baldinger tomorrow. Also, Lewis in the chat says, don't fake accents, Andy. It's as bad as the flopping. Now, I'll talk about Liverpool all I want.
You sound Irish. Andy,
I know.
My wife.
I need to sound like a Beatle. They're from Liverpool. So it's got to sound like Ringo.
My wife's hidden talent is impressions. Like she can impersonate people, but she never does it. Like it's not like something that she's proud of or that she like even realizes. And every now and then she'll do an impression, like just while entertaining our daughter. And I'm like, holy crap, that sounds identical to the person. Like, and like she'll impersonate like people in Disney movies and stuff to like help like entertain our daughter, and it's like spot on. I really think if she leaned into it, she could be somebody who does voices.
I'm intrigued. I want to hear your wife's mountain impression.
Yeah, she does a good Miss Doubtfire. She's pretty, and but she's really good.
Euphoria Doubtfire?
That's Smythe, not Smith, my dear. Well, like, what's a fullback?
We're not going to get into that movie. That movie doesn't hold up.
I gotta tell you, the most underappreciated movie of all time.
Mrs. Doubtfire?
It does not get enough credit for being what it is. Like, that is the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Funnier than Dumb and Dumber?
No, but Dumb and Dumber gets its due. Dumb and Dumber is like viewed as the most iconic comedy in the history of comedy films, isn't it?
I think Mrs. Doubtfire was viewed as it was a massively successful comedy at the time. Robin Williams was as hot as he's ever been. So
I think it holds up great. I love it.
If you say so. All right. Tomorrow, all of the problems with I'm kidding. Tomorrow, your questions. We got a great one from Willie. I know we're answering that one about the class of 2023 quarterbacks. That includes, yeah, you guessed it, Nico Iamaleava. And maybe we'll know where he's going by then. Maybe this UCLA thing will get done, or maybe not. We'll talk to you tomorrow.